Have you been feeling the call for more silence? Have you felt that pulling you lately? Like, stop, ground, come in, slow down, be here, feel it, lean in. Can you sense that? This magnetic pull into the silence, like gravity. If you haven't been feeling that lately, you may have been lately feeling a different kind of pull. The pull to be entertained, to be engaged, to drown yourself, to escape, to find a substance, to find a person, to find a place, to find a thing, to find something that entertains, to find something that engages, to find something that does something with this energy that's coming up. Notice that. We're here for this spiritual practice to be awake, to be aware, to be in the now moment, and to notice things. That means our discomfort. That means our calls to the silence. That means our running away from it, trying to escape. But to simply be in a space of radical awareness, of full acceptance of what is going on around us and what is going on within us, and then to bring all of that to the source of our being and say, show me the practice today. Show me the practice today. Last week, we talked about metaphysics and the metaphysical lens of life and kind of the hidden curriculum of life and how there is so much more going on than meets the eye. And this week, I want to talk about a trinity, not the trinity you're probably used to hearing about, but a trinity nonetheless. A trinity of how we can check in and be more present for the miracles in each moment. Does that sound like a good plan? Check in and be present for the miracles in each moment. A lot of times in the human condition, we're very good. I know I'm an expert. I have my PhD in this, of being present to the messes of the moment. My little Virgo mind, she can catch every single one. Oh, here's a mess, here's another mess, here's another mess. But I also have the gift of catching the moments. I was playing music with friends and recognizing, like, what on earth, how on earth did I get so lucky to come to this place and time? Like, I play music, but I'm not that good. I mean, whatever. Like, it's not, I am surrounded by incredible talent, incredible musicians. And I'm sitting here going, wow, what did it take place to bring this together? Can you see that in your life in some way? Is there something good in your life that you can look at it and you can go, whoa, what did it take to bring this together? To bring me to you, to bring us to that, to bring them to us, to bring us to now? We get really good at asking the questions, how did we get here and how do we get out? Yeah? I don't think any one of us is exempt from that. But do we look at how we got here? The trinity of the practice. The trinity of the practice. We are co-creators, yeah? And even the word co-creator is a little bit of nonsense because there's just creation, right? There's just one, so how can there be a co-anything? Nonetheless, we live in this world of duality, And we live in this world where we process ourselves in the human condition, in this feeling of limitation, and also in the spiritual condition, in the knowing that we are part of the creative process of this universe, God, whatever you want to call it, but that you are creative, right? I believe that we all know that. And in the practice, we may know that and we may think these things, but we may get still stuck, yes, in the rut of the human condition. Looking less at the miracles and the moments that are made before us and looking more at the mess. So how do we use the Trinity of the practice to wake us up, to keep us centered, grounded, and focused so that we align with our intended desired outcomes in life, our intentions, right? Because life is full of opportunities, it's full of problems, it's full of potential, it's full of obstacles. When I was sitting with this group of musicians, I realized we're all songwriters, and I've never thought even really of writing a song with the people that I'm with. I mean, I know incredible songwriters, and I haven't even thought of writing songs with them. We are sitting in the midst of greatness and sitting in the midst of potential in every moment. Have you thought of grabbing someone? I grabbed my friend, Reverend Bob, this week for a meditation. I decided for me, and feel free to take this on, but for me, it's meditations in May, pop-up meditations. I'm going to add something else into the flow. I grabbed Aisha and Mark one of the mornings we got to school. Said, you want to meet me in the Peace Chapel for a meditation? Yeah, we do. Meditations in May. How often is there a possibility, a potential, an opportunity right in front of us that we just let it go by? And how do we use the spiritual practice to ground us, to center us, and to inform us? Well, I think it's this Trinity. And this Trinity, I bring it together as a Trinity because it is like intricately interwoven. You can't talk about one without bouncing to another, without shifting back to yet another. So it's do your part, do your work, and do your prayers. And if you prefer, you could exchange do your prayers for do your practice. Do your part, do your work, do your prayers. With my little one, we're at a phase where we're looking at, her intention and what she says she'd like, and then what her behaviors are lining up with. And so I know it's quite an advanced concept for a 5-year-old, but I keep bringing it up to her. Your actions are not lining up with your intentions right now. Like if you would like X, Y, or Z, these are the steps that lead to it. Is that not a big lesson for all of us? Are we not still getting that lesson? I think that's why we're all here. That's why we come together for the practice. It's like, I know I've got some intentions, and here I am walking down a path. Here I am with my actions not lining up to end up there, right? And a lot of times we want to control the other things. If there's something not going on in your life, what's one thing that would make a difference to shift that? What do we usually answer? What's something that could shift that? We usually have an answer that has nothing to do with us. Well, I could win the lottery, or they could change, or the government could start doing this, or that could shift, right? Are you in control of that? Okay, well, let's find another answer then. Are you in control of that? Is that your domain? We start from our domain. No? We start here. Do your part, do your work, do your practice. So in doing your part, what does that mean? To do my part. That means I need to be accessible. That means I need to circulate. And that means I need to look at what occupies my mind. I need to be accessible. I can pray all I want for something. That pops us into the practice. Did you see the pop? We popped in the practice. I can pray all I want for something. But if I am going to sit in my own little insular world, right? And I am not going to take action, how reachable am I? How reachable am I? I mean, and that pops back to the prayer. We are reachable because the truth is there are miracles. We talked last Sunday about the lack of signage. And even in the midst of the lack of signage, you found yourself here. In fact, one of our beautiful folks from the retreat was walking around this morning early when I was here. She got here early, and she's like, am I in the right place? And I said, you actually are. You're in the right place with the right person. Come on in. So there are miracles. You don't always need a sign. You don't always need the things you think you need. But we need a practice, and we don't need to know what's ours to do, and we need to do check-ins to see if we're doing our part. Am I accessible? Accessible to spirit, accessible to miracles. Am I willing to do my part? Am I going to pick up my feet and walk? Am I going to move? At the moment I'm inspired to do something, am I going to have the courage to do it? How many people have walked by a soulmate, or at least I don't want to be, at least a fun fling? I was trying not to be me. I mean, when you get to be my age, anything that was not a soulmate and didn't end up in a marriage turns out it was either a not fun or a fun fling. But how often do we walk by one and we don't even know, right? I tell people this time and space, I'm like, what did you say? What did you say about that person? You said you thought you'd like to get to know them? Get over here. Get over here. Just stop that stuff. There is no ego that needs to be offended. You want to be friends with her? Lean over and say it. You seem interesting. I'd love to be friends. Do you know how many people would just about be an instant friend? If you lack connections in your life, like really, yeah, you got forever now, forever. Your family, just be like, I looked at you, we decided we're family. But it takes courage, it takes doing our part, it takes doing the work. And who cares if we get rejected? Who cares, really? You are not the ego that actually cares. You're the one watching that. And when you're really watching it, you're like, good on you for not caring. For being like, we volunteer, my little one and I, at the animal control place. And it's a great teaching tool. Because I'm like, that cat? We don't need to hang out with that one today. That's okay. She's where she is. All these kittens, oh, look, here we go. Let's just sit in here. Don't take it personally. But if we're not putting ourselves out there, right? God can do no more to me than God can do through me. I'm not reachable. I'm not accessible. I'm not accessible, right? I didn't even answer that call. Oh, God, please, this. Oh, universe, I'm ready for this. Oh, how about a bigger house? Well, clean the house you got. Do you really want more of a mess to live in? Well, that's not exactly the intention that I said, but I said an intention. Yeah, you did. Are we accessible? I know there are times in my life when I have prayed for things and I've prayed in things and I have not been accessible. Feels a little bit like magic, doesn't it? And sometimes you have the guru practice where you're like, wow, that was completely inaccessible and I prayed it in anyway. Like I prayed in my house, absolutely. Because I entered a portal where I recognized I have zero ability here, and this mind cannot navigate this. I'm going in between looking at rentals and looking at places to buy. I have no idea how much I can afford. I'm scared to death of a mortgage, and what if this church doesn't like me, and then I just messed up my whole financial future because I bought a house? And then you pop over to the prayer. When you're in that state, there is something that you could do where it's nothing. I got no part here. You just go, all right. And I literally said, I'm done. God, put your finger on my house. I did the same thing with Mark and Aisha. I was like, I'm done. If you don't know who Mark and Aisha are, they're the amazing husband and wife duo that run the administrative office of UVC and the YFM. We don't often let go of that much control, right? If we really are willing to do it, we could pop into the prayer part of the Trinity and do it in an entirely different way. But most of the times we've got our fists a little clenched. We've got some ideas, right? And then we got our fists clenched. Sometimes we're not doing our part. We're not actually open. We're not actually open. And part of that is circulation. The human condition and the ego engages in separation. But if I engage in separation, I keep myself over here, right? If I keep myself over here, I'm not circulating. So if I'm not circulating and I'm not inviting in new things into my experience, new relationships, new books, new aspects and deepening of the spiritual practice, new avenues of giving, new commitments. If I'm not doing that, I'm not circulating. And if I'm stagnant and I'm not moving, how movable am I? I remember my sister telling me at one point in my life, I was just stagnating looking at one of my first jobs. And she finally got so sick of me. She's like, Erin, take anything. At least from there, you'll be able to move into something else. Like maybe it doesn't matter, but you gotta stop this. Because at least if you're at what's next, even if it's not what you want, there's movement and you'll be able to move to what's after that. So that's circulation. You never drink from stagnant water. We never drink from stagnant water. But when water is moving, when it moves through the earth, right, it cleans it. So too does that work with our money. So too does that work with our time. So too does that work with our talent and our treasure, our whole beings. But we have to be accessible. We have to circulate. And from there, we can be directed. We have to let things in and we have to let things out. We have to look at what occupies the mind. And for many of us, there are times when our mind is, we think we're circulating, but we're circulating around ourselves, right? We're circulating around the same thoughts over and over and over again. Spinning, becoming dizzy. Patterns of circular thinking. But we can check that. We can check it and recognize what that is and what that does with the brain, and then pop back to the other parts of the Trinity. Do your part, do your prayers. And you hear that word, do your part. The last key to do your part is the word part. Part. Well, that's not as overwhelming as all of it. The whole thing. Do your part. You're not asked, I'm not asked to source everything, to do everything, to figure out everything. I'm asked to do my part. To step forward when I get it that I should step forward, to sing when I get it to sing, to give when I get it to give, and then to do my work. So that's the second one. Doing your work. Can we move ourselves out of all that circular thinking? Not circulation, but circular thinking. Can we move to the life of complaints and separation and all that into the life that is constructive? Can we move our energy in constructive ways? Because when we do our work, what it looks like to do our work is to recognize that everything, thoughts held in mind, every action, every moment is an act of creation or an act of destruction, not in a bad way, but I'm either building or I am releasing. I'm building or I'm releasing. So can I get out of that realm of stagnation and recognizing that what I'm focusing on, the thoughts, the place my energy are, those are growing, those grow. What patterns am I creating? And then the energy of release, it's a powerful energy. What am I letting go? What am I moving past? What am I moving on from? In Hinduism, we talk about Shakti. Shakti is that creative energy, that energy of growth, of co-creation. And then we've got Shiva, the destroyer. And they're both part of the circle of life, right? They're part of the yin and yang. They're part of the inlet and the outlet of circulation. And so we're always in motion in that way. Can we do the work? Can we recognize that we need to be in alignment with where we want to be going? That's doing the work. It's being reflective. It's looking. With my daughter, with how she's, doing all these things, I started this word to just say, check. to just stop everything and go, check. That's just my way of telling you. You think you want something and you're going in a direction this afternoon, this evening, this moment, but check. What you're lining up with is actually a different experience. What you're lining up with is a consequence or a repercussion or not getting your screen time or whatever it is. That's what your actions are lining up with. Check. So can we check with ourselves? Can we stop and say, check. Am I being accountable? When I am in error, am I clearing it up? Am I cleaning it up? Am I in integrity with my word? Can people trust me? Can I trust me? Am I actually doing the work? Am I looking at this life and I'm looking at my part? We can so often look out at the other parts, right? But my power is not there, if you haven't gotten that memo. My power is not there. Eckhart Tolle says, complaining as well as fault-finding and reactivity strengthen the ego's sense of boundary and separateness on which its survival depends. So what are we strengthening? What are we strengthening? Can we do our part, be accessible, circulate, look at what occupies the mind? Can we do our work? Can we do the integrative work of recognizing that we are part of the co-creative flow of life? And look at our stuff. And look at it like, don't care about it. Don't care about it at all. Just look at it. Just know it. Yeah, that's me. That's my stuff. And then lift it up and lift it to that third part of the Trinity, the practice. Do your prayers. Do your practice. Do we have time in the silence? Do we have clear intentions? Do we speak life into ourselves and into others? Because we can pray all day for God to change things, for God to do something to us. But until we dive into witness consciousness and start looking at the inner body, start looking at the inner life, start looking at the stored patterns that run the show because we've had enough time being drawn into the silence, we are selling ourselves short, and we are selling the world that we co-create short. Time in the silence, time in the practice, time in the now. Some of the most valuable time we will ever spend, and it directs all of the others. It informs how we do our part. It informs how we do our work. Eckhart Tolle says, when you have had your first few glimpses of the timeless state of consciousness, you begin to move back and forth between the dimensions of time and presence. First, you become aware of just how rarely your attention is truly in the now. But to know that you are not present is a great success. He goes on to say, even if it only lasts for a few seconds, it's a great success. He goes on to say, what I call ordinary unconsciousness means being identified with your thought processes and emotions, your reactions, desires, and aversions. It's most people's normal state. In that state, you are run by the egoic mind, and you are aware of being. You are aware of being. He goes on to give us a practice for being so present in the now, so that we can do our practice, do our work, and do our part. He says the key is to be in a state of permanent connectedness with your inner body, to feel it at all times. This will rapidly deepen and transform your life. The more consciousness you direct to the inner body, the higher its vibrational frequency becomes, much like a light that glows brighter as you tune up the dimmer switch and so increase the flow of electricity. At this higher energy level, negativity cannot affect you anymore, not because it's not there. You tend to attract new circumstances that reflect this higher frequency. If you keep your attention in the body as much as possible, you will be anchored in the now. You will not lose yourself in the external world. It's still there. And you won't lose yourself in the mind. It's still there. Thoughts and emotions, fears and desires may still be there, but they won't take you over. The Trinity. Can we check ourselves, do our part, do our work, and do our prayers? As Michael Singer says, what is in front of you is a very holy thing. All of it. Namaste.